Hi everyone, Namaste. So in the last class we completed thermodynamics, some state function parameters, internal energy we completed, enthalpy we completed. So both relation is there. Delta H is equal. What is the relation? Delta H is equal delta U plus delta Mg RT. So based on the delta Mg value, so delta H and delta U relations we can identify. Now we completed two state function, internal energy and enthalpy. Now about enthalpy, so as I told, enthalpy is a chemical term. In mostly chemical equations we use enthalpy term. There are number of enthalpy. So before going for enthalpies of reactions, first we will see one law, that is called Hess law. So Hess law is also based on enthalpy. So also called Hess law of constant heat. What the Hess law says that enthalpy is a state function, that means whose value does not depend on the path. That means only depends on initial and final value. So it says that in any reaction the enthalpy is always constant whether the reaction carried in directly or indirectly. Suppose A is converted to B, it is a direct equation whose enthalpy I am taking as enthalpy of reaction. But indirectly, suppose it is converted to C first, after that converted to D first, and again converted to D. This is a direct equation and these are indirect state. So what the Hess law says that, so the enthalpy of a direct reaction is equal to sum of the, let it equal H1, delta H2, delta H3. So the enthalpy of equation is equal to sum of the enthalpies of the indirect values, delta H2 plus delta H3. So whether the reaction takes place directly or indirectly, enthalpy is constant. That means direct value must be equal to sum of the indirect values. So that is called Hess law. Why? Because enthalpy is a state function. Only depends on initial and final value. How it came does not matter. Only initial and final value is important. So based on this, so one important law is there, an important cycle is there, that is called Born-Haber cycle. So this Born-Haber cycle is used to determine the lattice energy of a crystal, lattice energy of an ionic compound. So that is also based on this law. Direct equation is equal to sum of the indirect equations. So I am not explaining Born-Haber cycle, but it is also based on Hess law. Now I am going to some different enthalpies of reactions. The first one is enthalpies of formation. I am taking standard enthalpy of formation. So what is enthalpy of formation is that in any reaction, if you are producing 1 mole of product by using their naturally occurring elements, then the reaction is called enthalpy of formation. So enthalpy of formation means it is the change in enthalpy during the formation of 1 mole of product from its constituent elements. For example, enthalpy of formation of CO2 is given. So that means we have to form 1 mole of product. Product must be in 1 mole. And reactants must be naturally occurring form. Carbon dioxide formed by carbon, but carbon naturally solid form. And oxygen will go to form in gas form. So this reactants, carbon solid, oxygen gas producing 1 mole of CO2. So in this reaction, how much energy is changing? That is called enthalpy of formation of CO2. Same like enthalpy of formation of calcium carbonate they are asking. So that means we have to form 1 mole of calcium carbonate. But remember, reactant must be a naturally occurring form. So we cannot directly say that calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. This is not possible. Because formation means reactant must be in naturally occurring form. So calcium carbonate, 1 calcium. Calcium is a metal in solid form. Carbon is also in solid form. Oxygen is O2 form. So that's why 3 by 2 O2. So in this reaction, how much energy is changing? Enthalpy of formation of calcium carbonate. So product must be 1 mole. Reactants must be naturally occurring form. Then the reactions are called enthalpies of formation. Sometimes reaction they don't give in the exam. They directly give the values. So we have to write the equation also. So this is important. Formation means 1 mole of product from naturally occurring reactants. That is called enthalpy of formation. Now see this. So sometimes they will give enthalpy of formation value. So enthalpy of formation of CO2 given suppose minus 90 kilojoule per mole. Enthalpy of formation of CO2 is given, and also they given reaction, and they are asking what is the enthalpy change of this reaction. So enthalpy of formation of CO2 is given, and they are asking enthalpy of reaction. So in this reaction, whenever enthalpies of formations are given and asking for reaction enthalpy, remember enthalpy of products minus enthalpy of reactants. Very simple technique. In any reaction they are asking enthalpy of reaction product minus reactants, but this formula applicable when the given are enthalpies of formations. When formations are given, products minus reactants. See this, what is the product here? Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide value is already given. It should be minus 90 minus reactants. Carbon and water both are reactants. But the problem is carbon value is not given. Oxygen value is also not given. So how to identify? Whenever the enthalpies of formations of atoms, naturally occurring elements, carbon solid, naturally abundant, O2 gas, naturally abundant. So many elements present in their standard state whose enthalpy of formation of elements will be 0. Remember, enthalpy of formation of elemental form will be 0 in their standard state. So carbon solid will be 0, oxygen gas will be 0, direct heat will be 0. So answer is minus 90. So enthalpy of formation of elements. Elements means H2 gas. If H2 liquid is given, that is not naturally occurring. So H2 gas will be naturally occurring. So it should be 0. O2 gas will be 0. O3 does not be 0 because O3 does not occur naturally. O2 is the natural element. Same like phosphorus 0. S8 will be 0. Like that carbon, diamond, carbon, graphite, both are allotropes. Graphite and diamond both are allotropes. So graphite is a naturally stable, that's why it should be 0. But diamond and enthalpy does not be 0. So whatever the naturally occurring elements are there should be 0. So that's why carbon and oxygen directly we can take as 0. They don't need to give. So enthalpy of product minus reactants. That is important. So the next one is enthalpy of combustion. The second is enthalpy of combustion. So what is the statement is? It is the change in enthalpy during the combustion of 1 mole of reactant in presence of oxygen. So to produce the product. So any 1 mole of reactants on heating in presence of oxygen. So how much energy is changing? That is called enthalpy of combustion. Suppose enthalpy of combustion of carbon graphite is given. What is the reaction? 1 mole of carbon graphite with excess of oxygen produce CO2. Same like enthalpy of combustion of methane is given. That means methane we are combusting in presence of oxygen. So how many oxygens we have to take? Just we have to balance. How to balance it is, any hydrocarbon on combusting, they produce carbon dioxide and water. Any hydrocarbon on combustion produce carbon dioxide and water. The number of carbon dioxides are equal to number of carbon. 1 carbon, 1 CO2. Number of water is equal to half of the hydrogen. 4 hydrogen means half means 2 water. Finally balance oxygen, here 2 oxygen, here 2 oxygen, total 4 oxygen, 4 by 2, we can take 2 O2. So this reaction, enthalpy of combustion of methane, 1 mole of reactant on combustion, change in energy is called enthalpy of combustion. So also remember, whenever enthalpy of combustions are given and enthalpy of reaction they are asking. So here you have to calculate enthalpy of reactants minus enthalpy of products. Enthalpy of reactant minus enthalpy of product is opposite to formation. So combustion, formation both are opposite actual. So that's why here reactions are given, enthalpies of combustions are given, and asking about enthalpy of reaction. Then enthalpies of reactant minus enthalpies of product. Reactant means CH4. The value should be given. O2 value directly you can take as zero because it is naturally happening. CO2 value, H2 value also they will give. So we have to calculate values. So values they will give in the percent. Just substituting is important. What is enthalpy of combustion? So like that, another important is enthalpy of neutralization. Enthalpy of neutralization. So what is enthalpy of neutralization is? It is the change in enthalpy during the neutralization of 1 gram equivalent acid with the corresponding base, or 1 gram equivalent base with the corresponding acid. So base or acid must be in 1 gram equivalent. For example, 1 gram equivalent of NaOH. Gram equivalent is nothing but normality. 1 normality of NaOH and 1 mole of HCl produced together, formation of NaCl and water. So in this reaction, how much enthalpy is changing? That is called enthalpy of neutralization. And remember, whenever base is strong, acid is strong. When both are strong acid, strong base on neutralizing. What is meant by strong? Strong means completely dissociate. So H plus OH minus. So 1 mole of H plus 1 mole of OH minus will form 1 mole of water. So whenever both are strong, exactly 1 mole of water will be formed, and the releasing energy will be minus 13.7 kilocalorie per mole. So enthalpy of neutralization of a strong acid and strong base always constant. It should be minus 13.7 kilocalorie per mole. If one of the acid or base is weak, the value should be less than 13.7. If both are weak, very less than the 13.7. So, but maximum value should be 13.7 kilocalories of energy will be released when both strong acid and strong base on neutralization. So, enthalpy of neutralization for strong and base strong acid and strong base will be constant, 13.7. So that is enthalpy of neutralization. So these three are most important: formation, combustion and neutralization. So other reactions are there: enthalpy of solution, enthalpy of hydration. So just remember, read these statements, not required. Another important one is bond energies. Sometimes they will give bond energies. So enthalpy of a reaction is equal to bond energy of reactants minus bond energy of products. This is also important. And bond energies are given. Reactants bond energy minus products bond energy will give enthalpy of the reaction. So this is also important formulas. So these are about the enthalpies of reactions. Other reactions also there. Just read these statements like enthalpy of hydration, enthalpy of solution, enthalpy of atomization. So all these are, just read these statements. Now we completed two state functions. One is enthalpy, another one is the internal energy. So we also completed first law of thermodynamics. Now we will go for second law of thermodynamics. We completed zeroth law, that is thermal equilibrium condition. We completed first law, that is the conservation of energy condition. So now we will see second law. But before going for second law, so we have to know some drawbacks of the first law. So what is the first law says that? The first law says that internal energy is always constant for an isolated system. That means energy neither created nor destroyed. Only it will change from one form to another form. So energy changing from one form to another form. For example, delta U. First law of thermodynamics, Q plus W. That means heat and work may not transfer. That is equal to change in internal energy. So that stating heat and work will be transferred will be equal to change in internal energy. But this law does not explain heat will transfer how, from which body to which body. So you just explaining transferring from heat to system to surrounding or surrounding to system. To the surrounding to system is transferring. Q we are taking as positive. From system to going to surrounding, Q we are taking as negative. So this law explains heat can be flow from anywhere to anywhere. But that is impossible. The second law says that heat always transfer from hot body to cold body. It cannot transfer from cold body to hot body. So the drawback of first law, it explains conservation of energy is constant. That is correct. So it explains that when a process is happening, energy will be constant. But it does not explain is the process will happen or not. When it takes place, definitely energy will be constant. But it will take place or not take place does not given by first law. So that is the main drawback of first law. It does not explain possibility, feasibility, whether the reaction is possible or not, whether the heat is transferred from this system to that system or that system to this system. Not explained. So only explained heat can transfer from anywhere to anywhere. The total heat transfer and work transfer is equal to change in energy. So but second law says that heat only transfer from hot body to cold body. So that is the first statement of second law. Number of statements are there are 20 statements nearly. But just 2-3 statements will study. So what the thermodynamics second law says that heat always transfer from hot body to cold body. So that is the one definition. The second definition, it is not possible to construct a machine which converts complete heat into work. That means whatever the heat is transferring, it can never completely does not convert it to work. Some heat will be wastage. So that is the second statement. It is not possible to construct a machine which convert 100% efficient. 100% efficient means total heat can be converted to work. It is impossible. There is no 100% efficient machine in this universe. So that is the second statement. Impossible to construct 100% efficiency. Heat always transfer from hot body to cold body. Another definition is based on entropy. That is the third state function. So what the statement says that all natural and irreversible processes are spontaneous in nature. The third statement, all natural and irreversible processes are spontaneous in nature. So three statements, simple statements are given. Heat transfer from hot body to cold body. It is impossible to construct 100% efficient engine. And the third statement, all natural and irreversible processes are spontaneous in nature. Now, what is spontaneous? We have to identify. Spontaneous. So a process is said to be spontaneous when it will take place by itself after initiation. So after initiation of any process, it will take place by itself without any other influence. And that process is called spontaneous. For example, water will flow from high level to low level. So we are not doing any influence. So that will be happen directly. But water will not transfer from low level to high level. So we have to apply some electric energy, then only it will be possible. So any process is taking place without any influence, and the process is called spontaneous. Another example, expansion of gases. The gas will expand by itself, but for compressions we have to do external pressure. So that's why expansion of gas is a spontaneous process. So spontaneous means any process which can take place directly, that is called spontaneous. Now for this spontaneous, how to identify? By using parameters. So one important parameter is enthalpy. So whenever enthalpy is negative, that is called exo, that we already completed, and delta H is positive, that is called endo. What is the meaning of exo and endo? Exo means energy release. That means on reaction is going, system is releasing energy. We are not doing any energy. So we are just taking energy. That means exo reactions will give energy but takes place by itself. So these are called spontaneous reactions. But endo means what? Absorption of energy. Whenever we are giving energy, they will absorb and happen. So these will only happen by influence of energy. This will happen by itself and release energy. That's why exo reactions are spontaneous, endo are non-spontaneous. Remember it. So for a spontaneous condition must be delta H must be negative, because when delta H is negative, that is exothermic. All exothermic reactions are spontaneous. Why? Because exo means releasing of energy. No need of extra energy they require. They are already giving energy. So it will take place by itself. That's why it is called spontaneous. But endo required external energy. That's why these are non-spontaneous. So delta H without negative, that is called spontaneous. But only delta H does not explain spontaneity properly. Why? Because see this process. H2O solid ice is melting to liquid. Suppose ice is melting to liquid, solid is converted to liquid. To convert solid into liquid, we have to give energy. So that is endothermy. Delta H will be positive. That is called endo. Melting of solid to liquid is endothermy. But remember, a small ice cube when you are placing here, it will be melted by itself. We are not doing anything. It will be melted into liquid by itself by absorbing external whatever the atmospheric heat. So we are not giving heat, but absorbing atmospheric heat. So then we are not doing anything. So that is a spontaneous process. But delta H will be positive. Even some reaction delta H is positive. They are naturally occurring. So naturally occurring process is called spontaneous process. So this is also spontaneous. Even delta H is positive. So that means the delta H by itself does not explain spontaneity properly. We require another state function. That state function is called entropy. So entropy is the another state function which explains randomness of a system. So entropy is a measurement of randomness. So entropy denoted with S. Since S is a state function, direct S value we cannot measure. We can only measure change in entropy. Change in entropy is equal to entropy of product minus entropy of reactants. So when our reactions are given and entropies of reactants products are given, we can calculate by using this formula. At the same time, delta S is equal to Q reversible by temperature. So Q is nothing but heat at constant pressure, enthalpy. So enthalpy and temperature, nothing but. So why delta is equal to Q by T? We are passing heat to a system. Randomness will be increases. So how much randomness is changing based on the heat? That is the formula. More heat we are passing, more randomness will be changed. So same like, so entropy depends on Q by T. Why temperature is divided? Because at low temperature we are passing heat. At low temperature we are passing heat, more randomness. But temperature is already high, we are passing heat. Randomness does not increase more. That's why temperature should be low, heat will be high, and randomness will be high. So most important formula, delta S is equal to Q by T. This Q is nothing but enthalpy. They will give enthalpy, temperature. We have to calculate entropy. So this is entropy formula. Another formula is also there. So delta S is equal to NCV ln T2 by T1 plus NR ln V2 by V1. So this process also, this formula also we can use for the entropy. So ln we can convert it to logarithm also. 2.303 log will come. This is the formula of entropy at different process. Suppose the process is isothermal. Isothermal means temperature is constant, volume or pressure are changing. Then when temperature is constant, T2, T1 both are 1. So this will be ln1, ln1 will be 0. This total term will be cancelled. This is the formula for isothermal. When volumes are changing, when pressures are changing, V2 by V1 will become T1 by T2. Why? Because volume pressure inverse relation, Boyle's law. We can use P1 by P2 also. If it is isochoric, volume is constant, then this will be the Ln1, Ln1 will be 0. This is the formula. So this is the important formula. Depends on which process is given, we can use that formula. That is the Cv is the heat capacity at constant volume. And suppose isobaric is given. Isobaric means constant pressure. Here P1 by P2 again will become 1, Ln1 will be 0. And this formula will be NCP, not Cv. Because isobaric means pressure is constant. At constant pressure we can take as Cp. At constant volume we can take as Cv. Remember this? Cp, Cv. Pressure is constant, we take Cp. Volume is constant, we take Cv. So this is entropy. Entropy is a measurement of randomness. Now how to identify which is a spontaneous or non-spontaneous based on this entropy? See this, liquid is converted to gas, water on heating is converted to gas. So in this process you get, this is liquid, liquid means all molecules are in order, but gas means particles are in disorder, randomness. This is more randomness, this is less randomness. So change in entropy, delta S is equal to entropy of product minus entropy of reactant. Product is more random, this will be less random, so high entropy minus less entropy, it will be positive. So when delta S is positive, and that process is called spontaneous. So why? Because that is the second law of thermodynamics says that all natural and irreversible processes are spontaneous. So any process is naturally happening, that will be spontaneous. So that means, example, expansion of gas. Gas expand by itself, randomness increase, so spontaneous. So randomness increasing is a spontaneous process, and randomness increasing, delta S will be positive. So wherever delta S is positive, that we can take as spontaneous. But see this process, liquid to gas, is a spontaneous process? Not, because liquid is converted to gas only by heating. If you are doing extra influence, then only it will be take place. This is a natural process, so this is a endothermic process. It requires some external influence. But here delta S is positive, that is called spontaneous. So that means even entropy also does not expand spontaneity properly. Even enthalpy does not expand spontaneity properly. So simply we can say when delta S is positive, spontaneous. And delta H is negative, spontaneous. But this is not true for all compounds, all processes. So that's why to explain spontaneity properly, we must use another state function that should be accurate, and that is called Gibbs free energy or Gibbs energy. It is represented with G. It is a combining of H minus Ts. H is enthalpy, S is entropy. On combining of both enthalpy and entropy, we can calculate spontaneity of a process. And as I said, it is a state function. Direct Z we cannot measure. That's why we can take delta Z is equal to delta H minus delta Ts actual. The temperature always constant. For chemical process we are taking, so we can take T delta S. So delta S is entropy, delta H is enthalpy. If you are taking a spontaneous process, what is the delta this time? Delta equal delta H minus T delta S. For spontaneous process, delta H will be negative, minus T into delta S will be positive. This will be negative, negative into positive will be negative. Negative minus negative will be negative. Remember, negative minus negative is not positive. Minus 3 minus 4 will be minus 7. Minus 3 into minus 4 will be plus 1. That is into. But here minus minus will be minus. So whenever delta Z is negative, then the process is called spontaneous. For spontaneous condition, delta Z must be negative. Then only it will be spontaneous. So delta H and delta S directly does not explain by itself. But on combining these two, we can explain spontaneity properly. And that combining parameter we are calling as Gibbs energy, which is another state function. So what is actually Gibbs energy is delta H minus T delta S means What is delta H? Enthalpy. How much energy releasing in the process. By using this energy, how much system is changing their entropy, how much randomness it is changing. So that is called Gibbs energy. If energy is releasing more, entropy is changing less. So some extra amount of energy is there. That useful energy is called Gibbs energy. So Gibbs energy is the remaining energy which can be used for the work. That is called Gibbs energy. So it will be calculated by how much energy released in enthalpy and how much it is utilized for the entropy. What is the remaining energy is called Gibbs energy. So it is called useful work. It is not releasing energy, it is the remaining energy. Remember, releasing energy is enthalpy. The remaining energy will be Gibbs energy. So when Gibbs energy is negative, that is called spontaneous process. So just practice all this. Some important formulas also there. Delta Z is equal to delta Z naught plus 2.303 RT log Kc. So this is an important formula. Delta Z is the Gibbs energy. Delta Z naught also Gibbs energy. But remember, whenever you are using naught, that is a standard. The standard Gibbs energy is always constant. But Gibbs energy will be changed. It can be negative, it can be positive, it can be zero also. The standard Gibbs energy is always constant. So the relation between Gibbs energy and standard Gibbs energy is equal to this value. And what is the Kc here? Kc is the equilibrium constant. So when the process is at equilibrium, you can calculate equilibrium constant. So whenever you are writing Kc, that means the process is at equilibrium. At equilibrium, delta Z will be zero. Why? Because delta Z is a state function. Equilibrium means rate of forward, rate of backward, both are same. So it is a cyclic process. State function will be zero. So for cyclic process, state function value will be zero. So this should be zero. Or delta Z naught plus 2.303 RT log Kc. So from this, delta Z naught is equal minus 2.303 RT log Kc. So by knowing the equilibrium constant, we can calculate standard Gibbs energy. This is also an important formula. So these are the state functions: internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, Gibbs energy. So practice these formulas. So whatever your doubts having, just ask me in group. I'll explain. So thank you very much.